All right, welcome to the Library Board of Directors meeting for October. First, I'm going to take a roll call for everybody here.
Wanda Minglecook.
Chris Shipper.
Jenna Reno.
Hannah James.
Okay, all right. So our first agenda item is approve order of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll approve that.
I'll second.
And any discussion? All right. Minutes of September 19th meeting. Huh? Oh, sorry. We need to vote on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Oh, welcome, Paul.
Oh, welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there. I'm a little tight for time today.
Okay, no problem. So far we have just voted, discussion, and voted on the approval of order of the agenda. So we voted. So we'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is minutes of September 19th meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Then I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Paul. And any discussion? And a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. So agenda item number 3 is public comment. And seeing no public, we will move on to number 4, staff report from Megan.
Hello. You have my report in your packet. We have a ton of events coming up over the next month. I tried to keep my report to 2 pages, so I could not include everything. So I encourage you to go to the website to see all of our events. A couple things to highlight. Coming up for kids, we have pumpkin decorating sessions at both of our branch libraries. We're asking participants to bring their own pumpkins, but we'll have everything necessary to decorate them. And the Red River Railroad Club is returning in November for Train Day. This is always a big hit. They set up their huge models in the downtown community room that anyone can visit, even if you are not a child. And then that morning, they have a special train theme story time and a craft. For teens and tweens, this coming Thursday at the main library, they're making Halloween-themed terrariums, making a little graveyard inside with headstones and bats and things. They're adorable. And I checked right before coming to this meeting, and they still have a couple open spots for that one. There are also a few other crafting events coming up. Those do require registration, so look on our website for that. A couple of pop culture-themed events coming up. For adults, this Saturday at the Carlson Library, we're having a celebration of all things Bridgerton. So fans of the books and show are encouraged to dress up in costume and then come to the library for tea and trivia. And then for teens, on November 7th at the main library, we're having a Hunger Games themed event in anticipation of the upcoming movie. There will be activities and crafts at that event. This coming Thursday, the author of the One Book, One Community read for this year will be giving her presentation. That's at Concordia College. Doors open at 6:30, and they'll have books available to purchase from Zanbros at the event. And the last event I'm going to mention is an intro to generative AI. So there's been a lot of publicity about ChatGPT and other AI bots. So that we have a couple guest speakers coming from MSUM and Mayo to talk about AI, the pros and the cons, some of the benefits, and then what some of the drawbacks may be. And I also just wanted to mention that last week, the North Dakota Library Association had their annual conference that was here in Fargo, and we had about 10 employees attend the event.
Great.
And some of us presented.
All right.
Awesome.
Do you have any questions for me?
No,
Thank you, Megan.
some fun stuff going on.
Busy.
Everybody loves Halloween. All right, so Megan, thanks for the staff report and director's report. Tim?
Yeah, per your packet, really busy looking back at Band Book Week. A lot going on there. Really great. We were able to have a class of students from Concordia come in, and I got to talk about Fargo Public Library and kind of how we handled this past session and where we are now in regards to that. Also, Zambros put on a community panel in regards to banned books and the impacts of the session. I was on that panel. It was a lot of fun, very well attended. Many thanks to Zambros for putting that on. And as Megan said, I gave a presentation at the North Dakota Library Association Conference and discussing building and maintaining relationships with our funding body. So that was a good discussion as well. And also, in terms of interviews, you see that at the bottom, in terms of WDAY and the forum, both all related to book banning and where the library is in the current legislation.
All right. Thank you. Any questions?
I just saw Lisa DeVille sent an opinion letter to the forum a few days ago
Yeah, I read that. That
on
was
book
good.
banning as well. Yeah, it was good. Nice to read.
All right. All right, thanks, Tim. So we have no unfinished business. So we can jump right into new business, which is a review of strategic plan activity, goals 1 through 3.
Yeah, it's always good to circle back with planning and see what we got on. And what's interesting is when you see the little lines of information related to the work and accomplishment, it's just a single line, but what you got to remember is just all the work that went in behind it in terms of the staff and getting that stuff done. So we're going to jump right in. Obviously, it's goals 1 through 3, and then we have goals 4 through 6. I didn't want to make this the mega meeting. The one thing is we got started in this process back in 2017, which seems like a lifetime ago, but continue to work on it. Obviously, COVID was a big impact as of 2020, obviously. In terms of future strategic planning, that's somewhere on the horizon. I think when we were looking at it, what we thought would be more important, instead of jumping right back into more strategic planning, but looking at facilities master planning, because that was a piece that was really missing. The previous facilities master plan was from 2004. And the city's changed a lot since 2004. So trying to get those parts, because that's a good informative plan to help us in the next strategic plan. But certainly wanted to circle back and look at all the work that's been done in terms of the current plan. The way we broke it out is obviously goals, objectives, and action steps. And then subsequent to that, you see that what we actually worked on in relation to the action step and objective and goal. So obviously the first goal, Fargo Public Library will increase capacity of staff by providing training, increase effective communication, and reviewing and evaluating policies and procedures. Objective 1.1, provide training. Action step, develop, implement, and evaluate supervisor training. And what we've been working on in that regard, the library has utilized both in-person and web-based training for admin team and other full-time staff. The city has also made supervisor training available through the Skills and Technology up there on 19th Avenue. Really good classes. So it's been a many-faceted approach to that kind of training. And again, if you have questions, ask questions. Action step, the next one related to the first objective. Develop, implement, and evaluate interdepartmental training. There was a lot of concentration on training adult services staff with circulation tasks. That was really something we had to do during the COVID and when we were working on various forms of circulation activities. In terms of myself, I'm trained on primary office associate tasks, Cindy's many tasks. We also have put together in terms of that and continue to update is a continuity of operation document related to a lot of her tasks. So if she's out of the office or whatever, those things do get done. And as our social media presence has increased, we've beyond the single PR person, we have other staff trained in terms of maintenance of the social media. And continuing with objective 1.1, additional action step, develop, implement, and evaluate training related to the library's internal communication structures. We've worked on phone training on several times over the last 5 years. We also had SharePoint platform, which is a document sharing and utilization platform that we rolled out, and there was training involved with that. We've since updated that platform to make it better. Also rolled out Trello, which is also for training for circulation and adult services. Trello is basically a project management platform. And we also worked on, as an admin team, to develop communication values, say how we communicate and when we communicate and what we're looking to do in terms of that. It's been very helpful. Continuing on, the next action step, develop, adapt, implement, and evaluate customer service training in relation to our dynamic environment. Obviously, that's been multifaceted and ongoing. You can see it there, opportunities to have taken place over the last 5 years. All staff meetings, webinars, customer service training, working with specific audiences, review of basic patron support tasks, training on disability etiquette, and also training and serving Native Americans. Trying to keep it as diverse and wide as possible. Moving on to objective 1.2, increase effective communication. The first action step related to that, determine gaps in internal communication and knowledge about communication structures. Some of that went back to the phone training and some of those other things that we identified, and that came through internal communications audit completed in 2018, internal communications team survey also completed in 2019. The next action step, obviously, develop strategies to overcome gaps and implement proposed solution. Action step, develop per communications team, communication values as we discussed. Updated SharePoint platform, talked about that. Also the Trello, which we mentioned. And the one thing we kept on circling back and forth, and you can see that on the last point there at the bottom, in terms of a unified document management. There are platforms out there, they're relatively expensive. So we really haven't put that one to bed. You know, there's some things on SharePoint. We also have a regular cloud drive through the city that works for certain. Is it perfect? Not at the moment, but I think what we've run into in terms of something like this, looking at the cost, there's been other things on the capital list that we wanted to get taken care of before we spend money on that. Again, okay, next objective, increase effective communication. One of the action steps there, develop, implement, and evaluate an emergency communication plan. We currently have that available and we utilize it oftentimes in terms of weather-related issues. What we've run into before is the mayor will have a very early meeting around 6:30 and I'm on that, and then after that I'm communicating out via that communications plan to my direct reports, and they're kind of filtering it down into the organization. All right, the next one, objective of goal 1.3, review and evaluate policies and procedures. The big action step there, identify barriers to library use and identify strategies to overcome these barriers. Certainly the board has been aware of these. Removal of overdue fines is huge. The guest pass for public internet, in other words, that alleviates the need for identification for vulnerable individuals in the community to use public internet. Also partnering with the schools for the K-12 electronic resource card, gives them access to electronic resources via the library. We increased the physical media checkout limits. Also, more partnering with the schools and where we allow patrons or parents to opt in for students to use their school ID as a library card. And that is very seamless, and that's increased as well. Next action step, audit procedures across the organization to ensure uniform service provision. What we have is a group of circulation managers across both Maine and the branches that work together to make sure that that's a uniform approach to policies and procedures related to circulation. Again, the next action step related to objective 1.3. Evaluate and adapt library processes and procedures to ensure they reflect patron-focused priorities. And again, we'd refer back to all the barriers that we've reduced or eliminated in regards to access and use. As you know, as I brought policies, that review and adjustment has continued. Goal 2. Take a breath. Fargo Public Library will improve patron satisfaction by refining program planning, implementation, and staffing, including internal processes. Objective 2.1, refine program planning. Action step, develop program proposal form for staff. Developed and available as of 2019. Action step, reevaluate program evaluation options. The summer reading program participant survey currently available. And the library webpage has links to program evaluation surveys for all age groups. Action step, develop yearly plan across children's, teens, and adult programming to create a clear and focused vision. Biannual meetings have been established. Action step, develop a list of potential programming and outreach partners established in 2018 and continually updated since. And as you've seen, when you've gotten your annual impact report, it lists all the folks that we work with, so it's a good list. All right, objective 2.2 of goal 2, refine program implementation. Action step, research technology that can facilitate information gathering. That's another one that, looking at costs, we haven't been able to move in that direction. It's something that we're looking at, but with, again, looking at other priorities. Action step, continue remote programming and community engagement to include underserved populations. They put together a staff group, the community engagement planning group established, and it's just kind of seeing the kind of success that they had in 2022. Community engagement attendance was over 10,000 patrons, which is tremendous. Action step, create opportunities to connect the collection and services to programming. A lot of collections currently being promoted with programs via social media and programs themselves on site. Objective 2.3, refine staffing, including internal process. Action step, develop and fill adult programming coordinator position. We basically have a draft job description developed, and back in 21, coming out of COVID, we did a staffing analysis, and that really identified other priorities for us that were far more needed. And as we stand here today, in terms of, again, that identified 4 FTEs that we needed to get to staff, a proper staffing level. Of that, we got the 2, and we're still missing the other 2 FTEs in terms of that staffing analysis. So those 2 FTEs remain a priority based on that analysis to having the adult programming coordinator, which would be an important position to have, absolutely, but first things first. Next action step, reevaluate job descriptions and staffing structures as they pertain to programming. Job descriptions are reviewed annually. And then in 2020 and in 2022, we had multiple positions reclassified, and they had a lot to do in terms of programming. In 2020, The Children's Services Manager position was reclassified, which was good. We also had in 2022 Outreach LA3, Outreach LA2, reclass to the Circulation Associate, Library Associate 3. So a lot of positions have been reclassed to really reflect all the work that they're doing. Next action step, create time for program research, including regularly scheduled retreats. Children's, teen, and adult currently provide programming R&D time as they go through the year. Moving on to goal 3, Fargo Public Library will evolve collections and services by evaluating relevancy, identifying potential gaps, and exploring innovative opportunities. Objective 3.1, evaluate relevancy in collection and services. First action step, identify underused collections. Underused collections have been identified on an ongoing basis per turnover rates and the analysis of the facilities master plan. Next action step, survey users on how they use collections and service, identifying venues to connect with non-users for feedback on their needs, preferences, and gauge support for the library. With the pandemic, we never moved quite into such a formal process as that. Though, as mentioned, we had a really good analysis by location of usage of the collections in part of the facilities master plan. Objective 3.2, in relation to goal 3, identify potential gaps in collections and services. Action step, merchandising and improve shelf appearance of the collection considering the diversity of the community. As you notice, at Maine, at all locations, we have a lot more face-out displays at all collections. We've increased social media posts to promote library collections. And again, at Maine, the second floor was reconfigured in the reference area to promote merchandising and increase seating. One thing we had done of the adult collection was a diversity analysis by one of our vendors, and our collection was seen to be at a very high level of diversity, which we're happy about. Continuing with 3.2, action step, develop techniques to evaluate local/regional and/or self-published authors and resources. We have a local author request for submission form developed and is currently being utilized for local authors that want to submit their works. A next action step, staff education in collection content with an emphasis on promotion. Held selector training on topics of diversity inclusion in library collections, provides selector training related to strategic merchandising of the collections, and as I mentioned before, conducted the diversity audit on the adult collection. 3.2, identify potential gaps in collections and services. Again, moving on to the action step. With data from small point of view surveys, respond to user identified gaps in collections and services. What we've, I think we kind of moved away from the thought of such a heavy survey use, because that can basically burn folks to stop doing them at some point, and they're very hard to put together to make them meaningful. One thing that we did come up with is looking at what we call a surveys, or excuse me, the responsiveness team utilized something called the data tracker for new services, and what that was is every time somebody at a service point received a request for an item or a service or something that we don't do or we don't have, that they make note of that over a certain period of time. And we went back and looked at that and then brought those services online. And you can see that there, one of them was an ATM and the next one was like fax services. Seems counterintuitive nowadays, but folks need that would always show up. So instead of, the kind of high volume time thing in terms of putting together surveys, kind of looking at a more they bring their needs to us and we work from there. Objective 3.3 of Goal 3, explore innovative opportunities in collections and services. Action step. The first one, identify potential partners for new services and collections. You can see those there, and certainly that is not exhaustive. I think the staff have been tremendous in terms of their willingness to really reach out to so many different partners in the community, to be present, to collaborate with, to create improvements, kind of, that community capital and improving on that and having that presence. I think it's been tremendous. I think if there's one huge success out of this strategic plan, I think it was community engagement and how we're getting that done. And I think that's tremendous. And again, that's all based on staff availability too, to get folks out there. And the next one, action step, assess non-traditional collections for community relevancy. And this is just a few things that have come online through the course of the strategic plan. Board game collections, Wi-Fi hotspots was just huge. If we had 1,000 of them, they'd all be checked out. Binge boxes, that's been important as well. And that's just a few. Again, action step, create formal system for library staff to propose new collections. New collections have been proposed by a responsiveness team that's come through them and by individual departments, so it's been kind of organic that's been taking place. And if anybody has any questions, that was goals 1 through 3. I hope I didn't go through it too fast. Again, maybe a few lines, but it reflects a lot of work and a lot of things that went on.
All right, thanks. Any questions? I don't have any.
I don't have any either.
It's very thorough. So thank you. Do we have to vote on this?
No,
Okay, just didn't know.
it's information.
Okay, perfect.
Will we get a copy of your slides?
Absolutely, I'll send it to you, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, you are up next again. So we have our statistical reports.
All right. If I have any voice left. Looking at library use, attendance is still strong. We're happy with that in comparison of last year, up 10% overall through the end of September. Program attendance overall over last year up 20%. Excited about that. Volunteer hours slightly down 5% over last year, which represents 74 hours. Internet use is strong, 12% over last year, and hits on our website are up 10% over last year, which is well over 15,000 more touches there. In terms of overall circulation, hovering right below 8% over last year, which represents an increase of well over 55,000 more items over 2022. Excited about that. And again, the real drivers there in terms of increase is electronic e-content, with the largest percentage of well over 25% over last year, which is exciting. If anybody has questions about usage. I can move on to financials. All right.
Yep.
In terms of the donation summary, on the revenue side, we received an online donation of $24. The $321 that represents monies given by the public to the Children's Department for various nonprofits in the community, which will be reflected on the payout underneath there. In terms of the expenditure side on the donations, $155 was for the Wiggle Room. The $875 that was a bunch of different things. It was author visit, crafternoons, summer reading program donations, and then the various nonprofits that folks designated them to go to. On that expenditure side, the 110, that's children's books from the Friends, so thank you, Friends, in that regard. And the $30 on the bottom is the Way to Go cards for staff recognition. Again, thank you to the Friends for that. In terms of operating, you can see with 75% of the year lapsed, we're just under 70% expended. Obviously, monitoring that through the end of the year will be fine. In revenue, our grand total of just over $25,000 in terms of revenue through the end of September.
All right. Thank you. Any question for Tim on the usage or financials? All right. And I do not believe we have anyone here from the Friends of the Library.
I can say that they, at their book sale, they got over $3,000 in 2 days for,
Nice.
so that was nice.
All right, perfect.
A lot of books.
There were a lot of books
A
there.
lot of books.
It was.
Okay, so no Friends to give a report. Our next meeting is November 21st. Do I need a motion to adjourn?
No,
Okay, we're
just-
adjourned.
You're adjourned.